From the grind to the glory, one man's journey proves that heart, hustle, and determination change the game. This is Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., where adversity is met head-on and champions are made. Here's George.
Welcome to Catch as Catch Can. I'm George Tinsley Sr., former professional athlete, entrepreneur, author, and your host. This is a space where we sit down with leaders who face real challenges, learned real lessons, and kept moving forward.
Turning obstacles into opportunity.
Hello, joining me today is Nick Diachenko, whose journey has been shaped by pivotal crossroads and bold decisions. After becoming the man of the house at 15, Nick chose family and competition over the easy path, earning academics and athletic honors, securing scholarships, completing his MBA, and eventually co-founding Nash, Diachenko, and Associates in 1988. His story reflects courage, conviction, and the power of turning obstacles into opportunity. Welcome, my friend Nick.
Well, I just went blank here.
Well, I'm sure you're going to come back to us, Nick, here shortly. Can you hear me? Nick, can you hear me? Nick will be joining us soon here. We've had a little technical difficulty, and we're trying to get that straightened out. It looks like his screen is frozen, and our behind-the-scenes staff is working diligently to get Nick back on view here so that we can all hear him. There he is.
I think we're back on.
There he is. Hello, Nick.
I don't know if the thing just went blank.
Okay. Can you hear me, though?
I can see you, hear you.
Okay, great. We've had the introduction of your very interesting background. So let's kick it off and get started. We're live. We got an audience out there that's going to be listening in and may pose some questions and comments, and we'll keep an eye on that. But Nick, let's start off by telling us about your early childhood. One of the comments was that you became the man of the house at 15. So start wherever you would like at your early beginnings.
Okay, my picture's frozen here on this side. I hope it's not for everybody else, but
You're good.
Okay, the time you're talking about is like 1968. I was 15 years old, and my parents, which I love both of them dearly, loved them, and they're both gone now, but they divorced, and I have an older sister and younger sister and a mother, and the four of us became a new tribe with me as the man of the house. Dad had moved over to Lewis County over in eastern Kentucky, and I'd been visiting him, and the coach there wanted me to play basketball at Lewis County High School, and I didn't think about it very long because I wasn't going to leave my mom and two sisters without me being there. So that was an obstacle of maybe it could have been an opportunity to be a big fish in a smaller pond, but the obstacle was playing at Pleasure Ridge Park, which is a large school and a lot of competition, and my dad was kind of encouraging me to go there. You'll never start, blah, blah, blah. And I did end up getting 3 letters. I didn't start all 3 of those years, but it turned out very well. Got a lot of college and education paid for that way. The tribe that we had survived very well. My mother was a rock of all of us, I guess. And matter of fact, today, February 27th, would have been her 100th birthday. So
Oh,
that made it kind of special for more than one reason today.
yeah. Happy heavenly birthday.
Yeah, happy heavenly birthday. So I was growing up and gifted athletically. My dad played football at Western Kentucky and quite athletic himself, and is an orator, not unlike George Tinsley. And anyway, it was hard when they broke up. But before that, when I was in Little League, I was playing football, basketball, baseball, and my mother looked at me and says, "If you're going to do all that, you're going to take piano lessons too." So here I was every Saturday morning, go over to Mr. Falk's house and take piano lessons, which ultimately turned out to be a fun hobby of mine. And but anytime any art exhibits or anything we could go without spending any money came through Princeton, West Virginia, where we were living, we would always be required to go and take in something besides what you see, on TV or just everyday occurrences. So she was very much the educator and the determined person. But I'll tell you, last night I was watching Western Kentucky play New Mexico State, and WKU ended up winning 23 points, or 93-70, I think it was. And I was looking at Diddle Arena and John Oldham Court, and I was taken back to 1968 when my mother was going to graduate school down there working on her master's degree, and we would spend the whole summer living in a rented cottage, and I'd walk to Diddle Arena, and we had certain privileges with a swimming pool and different things that were there. But this fellow was seeing me play basketball out there that was running the arena for the summer. And he called me over and said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm Nick Diachenko." And he says, "Is your dad Nick Diachenko?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you can play, but not in front of any of the students." So I had a permission from the guy running the place there that I could go there anytime, and I did. And sometimes I go there and I'd be the only one in the arena working on getting in shape and shooting and whatever. One day I was there, and there's this one guy running up and down the floor, shooting, grabbing his own rebound, going the other way, and working pretty hard at it. And I just kind of, once again, you get these crossroads. I said, "Well, do I go talk to this guy? I don't know him." And he looked like a real stud athlete, if you will. And he said, "No, come on." So we started doing the old drill where you pass the ball back and forth and doesn't hit the floor. And we took the shot, got the rebound, went the other way. I bet we did this 20 minutes. And then we're all out of gas, and he comes over and shakes my hand. I said, "Hey, how are you? Thanks for that." He says, "Thanks. I'm Clem Haskins." So the two of us had the Diddle Arena to ourselves, and sometimes you just got to get past the whatever reluctance to go shake someone's hand or get involved, and it turned out to be a nice story that I'm glad to share with you today. He was working on finishing his bachelor's degree, and I think he had played there through 67, if I'm right, George. You would know better than I. And at the time, he was playing for the Bulls, if I recall correctly, and he was working out. He was just staying in shape for the summer, and it's one of those memories that'll always stick with me. But growing up was not without its challenges, but even though my mom and dad were divorced, we had a great relationship with our father, my sisters and I, and my mom as well. I mean, fortunately, they didn't get bitter at each other. They just went their separate ways, and unfortunately, they went their separate ways, but we made the best of it. But I was a gym rat, and that Clem Haskins story, it always stuck with me. And I followed his career coaching all the way up into Minnesota, and I don't know what happened after that. I guess he retired.
Yeah.
But,
well, Nick, I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to kind of go back a little bit and focus in on the early part of your story. You mentioned the piano lessons that you were taking at a specific time. When did you move to Louisville or in the Louisville area and start your education and athletic career at that time? One, if you tell us a little bit about that, and also some of the you had an older sister, a younger sister, and mom who was an educator and working. How you kind of held things together from an education and athletic standpoint. We got quite a few listeners out there that may be going through some of those same challenges.
Well, we moved to Louisville from West Virginia in August of 1964. I was going into the 6th grade. Okay. And mom and dad were still together, but their split had already kind of taken place, and I think they delayed it until we got a little older, and went to Catholic school, 6th grade, St. Clement's there in Pleasure Ridge Park area, and then went through 7th and 8th grade on double sessions. Schools were crowded, and they had afternoon sessions so that was something different. And I was home alone. Everybody else went off to school, and I get up and have to go to school till like 1 p.m. and got home at 8 p.m., whatever it was. But playing ball, you're right. It takes a lot of time, practice, traveling. And I had my disc light burning, and with my mom being an educator and my dad as well, he was a teacher as well as a football coach. And, your homework had to be done. It cut into a lot of social life, but it also kept you away from maybe some of the social life that you don't want to be involved in or could go down a rat hole in. And playing sports, I'll tell this to any person considering it. If you get on a team, you get on a lot of teams in life, and as a good teammate, you support the other one. You have some sense of camaraderie and discipline of staying in shape and wanting to make sure you're top performance for the games coming up. And you watched your conditioning and never did want to do anything like smoke cigarettes. I think a lot of my friends would smoke cigarettes. I said, I don't want to cut my win and give the opponent even 1 ounce of advantage.
So at that time you were actually thinking in terms of some of the negativity that was out there with friends and understanding how you were smart enough to understand how that might affect you with respect to athletics and possibly education as well. Some of a lot of youngsters that age kind of get caught up in the group and who even some of the negative things they think it's cool and get involved. How did you stay focused on doing the right thing?
Well, my mother was not. She was a 5'0", but she was not one to take any kind of guff. I mean, I remember one time mistakenly and made a bad comment. I don't even know what it was. It's some kind of sass, and she was doing her hair, looking at a mirror in a mirror and doing her hair. And this mirror was some antique mirror with a plaster doll face on the back. And I said something smart to her, and she just reached over and whacked me on the head with that mirror, and it cracked that plaster doll face on the back. And then she got mad. You broke my mirror. And then I just said, I got to go. And I got out of there and hopped in my 57 Chevy and went to school. But no, I think you did not disrespect. You did not, you could do a lot of things and have fun and cut up and don't make a grammatical error around the dinner table with 2 sisters that are all waiting for you to use an incorrect grammar or something. So we had some discipline there, and it was run by the little redheaded Nick Diachenko, the matriarch of our tribe. And there are a few instances where I was really glad that I was there. And one bad incident that we were leaving the game late because of after getting dressed and everything, and mom and my younger sister, my older sister was away at college. We were walking across to this elementary school where Mom had to park, and these three guys come up, and it was kind of, I don't know why they even, we were just walking, going to go home. And this guy says, "You want what I have in my coat?" I said, "No, leave me alone." And he opens up, it's a live cat. And he throws this live cat on me. And I slapped it down, and I said, "What the hell are you doing?" And then he takes a swing at me, and I ducked back, and it glanced off my mom's head. And, well, Armageddon broke loose at that point, and I was ready to take them all on. And this guy wasn't getting up from the first response I gave him, and I was looking at the other two. And so certain times like that, I was glad that I was there as the man of the house, and other times where people might try to intimidate my mom, but once they knew her, they knew that wasn't going to happen. But she was an elementary school counselor, and I still have people that said that she turned their lives around, and she's so gentle and kind and everything. And I said, yeah, I know a side of her that maybe isn't that gentle and kind, but she was very interested in our being brought up the right way, and we respected that. I couldn't have asked for a better mother. Right. Heavenly birthday. Yeah.
Right. So Nick, as you're going, these instincts and these skills, this that you've learned from your mom and from your older sister and so forth around the kitchen table. And so how did that play into high school athletics when you entered Pleasure Ridge? Because you were a pretty good player there, better than average, and you had one great player, I think, that was on the team with you, that you guys were able to achieve some pretty outstanding success during your high school period. So how did those skills that you learned at that time translate onto the athletic field?
Well, I did have some good stock in my dad being an athlete and everything, and some of it is hereditary, but a lot of it is determination and persistence, staying with it. As a freshman, I didn't even start, and I went to Lee Rose basketball camp and worked all summer at Diddle Arena, and by sophomore year I was lettering in varsity, but we had good teams, and that was a real, I don't know, something I'm proud of for getting it out and making the team and getting college paid for. In fact, I know you're proud of getting the what's the name of that? Academic Okanavi Award at Kentucky Wesleyan as academic achievement. And I ended up senior year getting the Letterman's Club Academic Athlete Award for all sports. And that was one of the most proud things I've done. And so as you get older, those things that you do that amount to something that required, doing your homework and reading the required things and studying algebra when you're sitting there, man, I just want to go to bed or something. So right. I think the determination is something that was passed down through not just my mom, but my dad too. I mean, he and she were split, but if you're going to do it, you go put your mind to it, put your passion into it, and don't do things that divert you away from that. Right. I've heard many of your comments and podcasts and things. If you do it with a passion and determination, and you're on the right track. Now, I won't say I took every right path, but when you know you're on the wrong one, I'll give you an example. Right out of Hanover College, I went to work in Indianapolis in distribution management. It was with the Kroger company, and it could have been any company. But I was in a warehouse as a foreman, dealing with grown men that I had to chase out of the bathroom to get back to work and stuff like this. And I looked, I said, man, is this what I want to do? And I looked at my boss's job and I said, do I want that job? Long term, no. And I looked at his boss's job and I said, do I want that job? And I said, not really, doesn't really turn me on. So we had a family friend that was a very successful businessman. And I talked to him. I said, what to do? He said, you need to talk to my friend, Don Holworth, and I can't tell you the name of the company right now that he was. Well, I go in to visit him. I didn't know what role he had, and then found out he was president of the company. And he set me down in his office, and we talked. I said, I'm in a deal here where I don't really see that being what I want to do. And he says, go get your MBA. And he says that's a lot of a door opener thing, and back to the education. And I'd been out of college for a year and a half, and getting back into the studies and routine of that was a bit of a challenge. But my wife and I moved from Indianapolis down back to Louisville, and I'd enrolled in the U of L MBA school, University of Louisville, and was taking night schools. And meantime, you might remember Larry Carver, who played for Denny Crum's first team at U of L. He was a sharpshooter from PRP, and my very good friend Rick Carter's older brother, and he says that he's working at Convenient Industries, and he says we were playing basketball of all things, and he knew I was looking for a job. I'd already got enrolled at the MBA school, and my wife had a job, and we were getting on our feet trying to buy a house and different things, and so he says, go talk to this fellow, Gary Payne, over at Kana Corporation. And they hired me, and I started working with franchisees. And that was so much more my cup of tea than having to, make sure people are at their post doing their job. And when I walked in to discuss P&Ls or merchandising or advertising or store conditions or whatever, we were on the same side. We were wanting to, we weren't at cross purposes. They wanted to make money. We wanted to come in and give them the best shot at doing that. And I really fell in love with working with franchisees. We seemed like we were on the same path. Let's everybody make money. Now,
Nick, before we, I hate to cut you off, but I do want the audience to know a little bit more about your high school journey in basketball, in particular, and some of the great players that you played with, that especially in the Louisville, Kentucky area, those listeners that are listening in.
The high school All-American, the Randy Waddell, was the renowned guard that, he was probably in contention for Mr. Basketball against Jimmy Dan Connor. And they became friends. I think they were each other's best men when they married. And guys like Rick Carter, Mike Patrick, and Ronnie Embry, and I can keep going names, but we were in a way in the shadow of Randy because all the accolades he got, but that was just the way it was. And we had what Patino would call Patino ball, where we'd press all over the floor. We'd look at the other team when we were seniors, particularly junior year. We went to state finals. It got beat by your alma mater. And Henry Husky and Bill Bunton and those guys, they were such a great team. But I think we might have been the only team to beat them that year. We beat them in the LIT. But what a great team they had, and we had, but we would look senior year. We didn't have the same height we did junior year, and we'd look at the other team, and they would always be like in warm-ups. You kind of size up the other team, and they were always bigger. It seemed like than we were, but I would look at it. And that's back to your subject here. Sometimes it's how you look at life and how you look at things. I look at these big guys and I say, there's no way they could keep up with me on the floor. And not, hey, we're going to get dominated because he's 6 inches taller or something.
Yeah.
And so we had a certain winning attitude and legacy now, even with Coach Kinley and what he's doing there. And by the by, he knew I was going to be speaking with you today. He said one of his lifelong dreams was to meet Dr. J. And he says, you tell George if there's ever an instance again where he's in the same opportunity, in the same company as Dr. J, he'll fly or drive or whatever and catch up just to shake his hand and be part of that kind of greatness.
Yeah, well, let him know we'll get him in Louisville one day, and then he can stop by the airport and visit with Julius.
I'm sure he would be elated because he sent those pictures that you see from the PRP days. He's a great guy. He will wish former teammates like myself and even older happy birthday on his Facebook, and he has this catchphrase like you do. You have yours. His is "We are PRP." And for those that don't know what PRP stands for, that's Pleasure Ridge Park abbreviation for those around the little area that know that. But we had a great time playing basketball, and like I mentioned earlier, the camaraderie and friendships that were developed. Mike Patrick, Mark Patrick, who passed away last year. These guys played college ball. Mark went to Alabama. Randy went to Alabama.
Right.
Mike Patrick went to Central Florida Junior College at the community college and the junior college game, and I was invited to go there with him and Rick Carter, and I ended up going to Hanover. Once again, my mother came in knowing Hanover's, she knew Hanover College, and she insisted that I go there. I ended up going to 4 different colleges in 4 different states, and got out in 4 years with the class I started with, which is some kind of record, I know. And I joke.
That's great. I noticed one of our comments on the board there says that mentions that this era was a much different period than the era of basketball today. How do you look at that period? How we played then versus what's going on today?
Well, my son Derek played basketball at St. Xavier there in Louisville, and how he learned to turn the ball over that they don't call today is one thing I'll tell you that's different. Where you could cup the ball and let's pause it for a second. We had to have our hand on top of the ball. There was no 3-point shot. I would have been a better recruit had there been that. There's so much athleticism, and dunking wasn't even legal during the time.
Right.
And you probably remember those days, but
yes.
Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I think it scared everybody. How will we ever stop that shot? Now it's one of the most spectacular thing in the game. You guys at the ABA.
That was a little bit of Adolph Rupp's complaint. I think he headed up that deal.
Yeah, and it's so now, I mean, you figure out a way to stop it or you're going to get beat. That's there's a lot more physicality, I think, to one degree. I mean, it's almost in some ways it's better and more interesting. But I think because I played a lot of defense with Randy averaging over 30, you play a lot of defense, and if you there and you got your position, you shouldn't be able to just get knocked off the block and get scored on because you're not big enough to hold the spot like you would like an offensive lineman or something. But the game is still exciting. Like I said, I watched the game last night, and it has evolved. I mean, if you go way back, they used to jump the ball up every time they scored. So that's going way back. But the money.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but one of the key things I wanted to mention, because you did mention Randy and you playing alongside Randy, both as starting guards. Randy getting a lot of the attention and all the accolades, and you doing the dirty work. How did that sounds like a skill that you developed, that you didn't get jealous, you didn't hold a grudge against Randy. You played as a team, which carried on in your life. Was that kind of the way that you looked at things at that point?
Well, yeah, everybody wanted their time, but Randy was a scoring machine. Let's just face it, he's All-American. And our junior year, Mike Patrick and Rick Carter. Rick Carter he was probably starting that year, but Mike and I weren't. And there's another player named Ronnie Embry. So the 5 of us, including Randy, I got known as the Chinese Bandits. And that was an old term that LSU had a team back in the late 50s that won a national football championship, and they'd platoon a whole team in on defense or whatever. It'd be different.
Mhm.
And our coach was familiar with that from his era. And when the big boys were having trouble that year, we went to state with the game not going the way Coach Schaefer wanted. He would bring us in, and Mike, Patrick, Rick, and I, Ronnie, Embry, and Randy, we would press all over the floor. And that picture of with Joe Ford there, that was what we were doing. We'd trap the basket, whoever had the basketball, and then hope they would throw away some desperate pass that Randy or somebody else would intercept, and then off we went. But it's very up tempo, not unlike Coach Kelsey does offensively anyway, but we did it defensively. And by the time we'd break the press, a lot of teams would take the first shot, whether it was a good one or not, to just go ahead and get a shot up. We didn't have a shot clock, of course.
Yeah. We had the same situation that you're mentioning there at Male High School back when Darrell Griffith and Bobby Turner and Jeff Mack were the stars of the team and started. We had a group that when things got a little tight and a little rough, we'd bring off the bench a guy named Walter Jones and Victor Yarborough and Kenneth Braxton, and those guys would come in off the bench and really turn the game around and get things rolling. And then, Darrell and Bobby would take over. So I remember as you were talking about that, I remember how those teams worked back in the 70s,
Yeah, and it just changes the whole complexion of the game. You're getting beat with the half court game, and then we would come in and stir things up, and a lot of what we did was not easily recorded in the box score, but when you caused turnovers or when you pressured psychologically where every shot was contested, and we loved it. You had to be in good shape to run that way.
Yeah, but I noticed in the comment here, Renee mentions no shot clock, which is a big key also at the time. Because some teams slowed the ball down, would slow things down. Of course, the press, shot clock didn't play into it because as a pressing team, you made teams put it up there.
Well, or at least get over the half court line and do something. Yeah. We'd continue the trapping in the half court as well. Right. So that shot clock. Dean Smith in North Carolina did that 4-corner thing that made basketball so boring. They had to do something, and I think that was a lot better deal than doing away with the dunk. Bringing it back was a good deal.
Yeah, that's true. So let's jump now. We are in college. You went to Hanover. You said you went to 4 different schools. Walk us through that, and then you mentioned getting married. So walk us through how that came into play and where you were in your career and your thinking.
Well, I went to Hanover College at my mother's insistence, and they had recruited 5 or 6 freshman guards, and an NAIA school allowed freshmen to play, unlike NCAA at the time. It was a few years later, I think they allowed freshmen to play on the varsity team. It didn't look like that I was going to get a lot of action. 2 of the guards were starting varsity. I started on the freshman team, and they'd kind of already, they were Indiana guys, and it didn't look like I was going to flourish there. And Joe Hall at the University of Kentucky, he had been recruiting Randy. He was still under Rupp at the time, and he spoke with me and got me a deal with Somerset Community College, a junior college school in Somerset, Kentucky. And I went down there, had one of the best years of basketball playing there. So then I knew, and that was the second year, and I got the associate degree from there. And Rod Thorne, that name from basketball. He had a basketball camp, and he used to be a golfing partner of my dad's in Princeton, West Virginia. Rod's dad was police chief there, and Dad, he were playing golf, and they got me a gig at Rod Thorne basketball camp as one of the instructors or guys that they had used to demonstrate different things. And I thought I'd be going to Concord College. And I did take 6 hours that summer in Concord College at Athens, West Virginia. And that didn't pan out. But then once again, Coach Hall came in and hooked me up with the guy, Coach Eigelhart, out at Northwest Missouri State University in Northwest Missouri. At Maryville was the town. And I go out there and they redshirt me. In the meantime, I rekindled a romance with my high school girlfriend, and she was back in Louisville, and the idea of continuing to play with a coach that wouldn't even talk to me before the end of the school year, just assuming I'd come back or what. I tried to have a meeting. No, I was off and gone. So I said, well, heck with that. And that's when I didn't play college anymore. I went to Hanover. I went back to Hanover and graduated with the class I started with. And because I took that 6 hours and that being a liberal arts school, that was enough. I had to take a full full curriculum on senior year, which a lot of the guys taking all the hard, theology and philosophy and non-Western studies and things. I had it all crammed into senior year and ended up getting out of there with the 1975 class. We just had our 50th reunion last fall with all, like I said, four colleges, 4 states, and got out with the class I started with. So what I determined that I am is a Rhodes Scholar. Yeah. But I did keep the grades up. And then after my first wife, Karen, and I got married and moved into Louisville, that's when I got to work with the, went to Indianapolis first and then to Louisville to work with the Convenient Food Mart Group and got into the MBA program. But the college years were great. I did get to see a lot of the countryside and travel around. And once again, by keeping the grades up, it all transferred. When they brought all the transcripts into Hanover for senior year, it's like 3 different schools. And the guy, okay. And with the full load senior year, I got out. And that's a wonderful school if anybody's ever been up there. It's small, but it's a picturesque old school campus look and overlooking the Ohio River.
Yeah. One of the key things you're mentioning here, as you were moving around, looking at your careers, you were still maintaining that educational thirst to get as much education as possible. I know you phrased it Rhodes Scholar. Yeah, so that's really very interesting. Yeah,
it was in my DNA that being a good student, and I didn't want to waste my time or energy and not get away with the degree or have something less than a good grade. But I didn't get straight A's, but I got a lot of them.
Yeah. So you graduate and you get into, you said you were working convenience stores at the convenience store company. And so you start off in that company. Did you know at that time that the financial side, the accounting side was your strength at that point, or were you just still kind of searching what you wanted to do, franchising, meeting people? What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, the thing that I immediately enjoyed when I got to working with the franchisees was that that synergy that we were applying to the business goals and objectives, and so that wasn't specifically. It was we had to analyze P&Ls and things like that with them, and balance sheets but it was marketing and a lot of other operations. So getting the MBA, a lot of people think it's a lot of finance and accounting. And I liked finance. I didn't much care for accounting, but I had to learn the debits and credits. So the financial background came. There was a company within Kana Corporation called Financial Opportunities. And as we call them FBCs or whatever now, that's what I was, a coordinator, they call it, where you were the representative of the franchise company visiting with the franchisees. And that was kind of the lowest level. I mean, I don't mean it derogatorily is an important level, but that's the starting point where I came in. And then this opportunity came up with, they called it FinOp, Financial Opportunities. And it was a small business investment company licensed by the SBA that I had responsibility for putting these deals together to add equity capital and stuff to these guys so that couldn't afford maybe the downstroke to get into a convenient food mart. And then we had ways they would buy us out over time, and we levered that money with the federal financing bank. I think it's like 4-to-1 and 3-to-1. You know, like we put up $1 million, they'd put up 3 or 4 million, and back then that was a lot more money than today. And we spread it out, and we got audited by the SBA, and I got to go to some high-level conferences that the NASBIC, National Association of Small Business Investment Companies, put on. And so I learned more about deal making and balance sheets and how you structure deals, and that really intrigued me. And once I got the MBA, and I was back then got the Wall Street Journal every day, and it was in my office as director of franchising ultimately at Convenient. And I saw where Kentucky Fried Chicken was advertising for a director of franchise development. And, MBA was one of the requirements, and I looked at that. In fact, one of my coworkers told me, he said, "Man, they wrote your resume in this Wall Street Journal ad." And I acted nonplussed about it. I go back and look for the ad and applied. And I knew some people over there that as playing industrial basketball with, and ended up getting that job with Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I started in '84, and we started NDA in '88. But in between that, PepsiCo had bought Kentucky Fried Chicken. They wanted to decentralize a lot of the operations out of Louisville, and I had an opportunity to have a lateral position in San Francisco. And I'm from Louisville. My wife had as good a job as the one I was going to be moving to. Is once again one of those crossroads,
right?
And this is maybe one of the biggest ones in terms of career path. I was looking at, move over there, uproot, take a job making same as what my wife had would have made staying there, and enter Charlie Nash, who is my long-term friend, and he was one of the leading franchisees of the Convenient Food Mart group, and we became such good friends. He was godfather of my 2 sons, and I sat down with him, and we talked about taking some of the services out of my role as director of franchise development into a private company. And we worked up a presentation and went to the leaders over there at KFC at the time, Bill Evans and Steve Early and Don Parkinson, names you all know, and presented, said, "Hey, I don't want to move to San Francisco. I think this be," and he said, "Well, Bill?" I remember asking me, "Is that something KFC could make money at?" I said, "No, it'd be a conflict, and the kind of money wouldn't be, hit the dial on your size company, but for me, it could be a good living." And with their blessing and support, that's how NDA. It was Nash, Diachenko and Associates originally, DBA, NDA, and then we just became NDA Incorporated in the 90s.
Right. So as you're walking through this, Nick, how keep us posted on how you transferred some of those skills from your early years with family, and also your ball athletic career, those skills you learned in that area and transferred it now into your work environment at this point at KFC, moving into your own company. How did that help you?
I think the discipline was a major part. I think we see the results of these guys that play basketball at a high level, or any sport at a high level, the Olympics. You have to have a lot of discipline to stay with it with all the distractions, especially in today's time. I mean, you got the whole World Wide Web in front of you with your cell phone, and you've got so many other things to entertain yourself with or to get involved with that maybe they were there, but you had to dig them out of the woodwork back then and not have it right there at the hand. So you had to commit yourself to the team and what the best thing for the team would be. So, and our team got to be 2 or 3 people at that time, when we started the business. And so each person was in the starting lineup and had their job to do. And you don't want to let the team down or yourself down or get into something where you'd have to, once you get a taste, as you did, of entrepreneurship, it's hard to go back to the corporate world. I've had that said to me by a lot of entrepreneurs. My dad had a saying that he said, an entrepreneur is someone that will work 80 hours a week to keep from working 40 hours a week for somebody else. So
that's a perfect saying.
Yeah. And it proved to be very big decision and a good decision. Now, 38 years later, we both have heir parents, and our sons that are been in the business a long time. In fact, when I called you the other day, I said, Siri called George Tinsley. And all of a sudden I got G2 on the phone, and I spoke for a minute. I was trying to call your dad, and we talked for about a minute. And I said, I better get back to calling him. So I added the senior to the request for Siri. Right. Yeah,
it's a wonder he answered the phone. Just teasing. So tell us a little bit about NDA. What does NDA do, and when it was Nash, Diachenko, and where it is today?
Well, it's basically the same thing. We started exclusively with Kentucky Fried Chicken because we had that relationship with those powers of B. Bill Evans and Steve Early and Don Parkinson. In fact, we had a confidentiality agreement signed, which sometimes gets confused for which NDA are you talking about. But they would give us leads for people to talk to. They were having trouble or needed to sell, and then I could go in without the corporate hat on and just say what's up, and they might cuss out KFC because they're mad at them or something. It wasn't me anymore. I'm there to help and try to find them a solution for this deal they were in. They're maybe behind on upgrading or not paying their royalties or just tired or needing to, So we would get a good working relationship. We still enjoy a very good working relationship with them. But as time went on, you remember the big lawsuit when PepsiCo took over, and within a year or whatever, it had a new franchise agreement for everybody to sign that was way more onerous to the franchisee than the one they previously had from 1976 that John R. Neal called the Magna Carta, so there was it's 5 or 6 years that thing battled on, and our business with KFC dried up. We tried to get some traction with some other brands that we didn't have as good a inside track or as good a concept to work with, and things just kind of died for us. And I ended up opening a retail store that for that couple of years, I have learned so much respect for people in retail that I didn't learn in MBA school. When it's 24/7, and if the alarm goes off at 3 a.m., you got to be there, and you could lose a whole day's profit if somebody's stealing a carton of cigarettes or something. So it was not something that I had the same feeling that I did about working with franchisees. Mm-hmm. Well, they were battling this out, as you know, for years, and Don Parkinson calls me. He says, "Hey, let's have a meeting. There's a lot of," he called, low-hanging fruit out there for franchisees that need an exit strategy, and they had no clue. And now there's other companies doing what we do, but back then we were especially with the KFC world, maybe one of the first ones ever that were specializing in franchise restaurants, and not only that, not other industry things. But so we visited and got things going back in. That I had a partner in the retail business, and I didn't want to desert him. So we bought an RV, 35-foot RV that set out back, and I had it all wired up to be an office and fixed up. And when they needed me inside the store, they'd ring a bell and I'd go in and we'd do things in there. But I remember Walt Simon came over and visited me in the RV, and some of our early deals after the, post lawsuit, we drove it down to Atlanta and parked it in the Stouffer's Marriott, or what was the name of that place, Waverly parking lot. And some of the guys come out to the RV and visit with us. Yeah. But ultimately, that partnership, he bought me out of it, and I went on and opened a real office with NDA. Yeah.
And Nick, there's some comments in our comment section there. Can you tell the folks a little bit about franchising? A lot of people want to get into franchising, and there's so many different areas of franchising. From your standpoint of selling, helping people sell, get out of bad deals, help some people understand a little bit better how to be successful from a franchising standpoint, what would your advice be to these folks our listeners that are thinking in terms of getting into franchising? What advice would you give them?
Well, I'd say first of all, have it in an industry in a program that you're comfortable with, that you like, and you like the product or the service, and recognize that a franchise is like a marriage. There's two parts to it. The mothership company's got a manual of operations and a bouncing ball to follow for the proven success, and you can't be as independent as you want to be and get outside of those guidelines, or you'll be in violation, or every now and then
that's the franchisee and the franchisor.
Right. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you're walking down the aisle with somebody you want to stay with, and that the culture and the relationship with the franchisees from the mothership is one that you want to get into. I think, like basketball, there's been a lot of changes in that relationship. Some big companies, I think, and I'm not mentioning any of them, all of them maybe tasted. Some are, in my view, over the line. Not KFC, but for example, they want to approve the new buyer, and you've got a deal. The seller wants to sell. He's got 5 stores, and buyer wants to buy, and then the franchise company comes in and says, "Oh, well, we need 5 more stores in that area, and we'd like you to do a development agreement." Oh, they'll swear up and down that that's not part of their approval process, but if you don't drink the Kool-Aid, you're not going to get the approval, or they'll somehow slow it down or something. So I think that is wrong on the franchisor side. Conversely, on the franchisee side, don't get into this marriage and try to use your own tomatoes on the. We had one guy that's growing great tomatoes, and he'd put them on his buffet or whatever, and they came in and shut him down because they won't have the checks and balances and make sure it doesn't have E. coli or whatever in it.
Yeah.
Companies
it's a violation of the agreement that that you sign. A lot of franchisees, Nick, don't understand when they become franchisees of a franchisor, they don't understand that that it's business, and that very easily, if you don't have a protected area, a franchisor can put one of his or her stores close that would impact your business. So that's another part of the understanding what you're getting into and understanding what the agreements are, would you say?
I'd say you're exactly right, and hence the G&K amendment. Yep. KFC had that before they would open another store, a franchise store. I guess they could open company stores outside of that protected area all they wanted, right. But as they would not sell it to another or grant it to another franchisee if you were the closest one geographically in that geographic proximity. And now they gave you first right to negotiate for it. And if you didn't have the capital, or if you weren't up to par on your inspections, or if you were behind in royalties or advertising payments, then they would maybe move you aside through those reasons, and the new guy would get in. But yeah, that cannibalization of your sales is a big concern for franchisees.
Right, right, right. So Nick, you've had a very successful career. You've done outstanding deals, and now your son is involved in the business. As a matter of fact, I think he's actually leading the business now as you ease into retirement, play a little bit more golf. What would you like to say to some of our audience out here that's about NDA and how NDA might be able to help them if they're looking at something?
Well, some people recommend you don't pass on the company business to offspring because maybe they want to do something besides what you did. But in
Right.
Derek's case, he's embracing it more and more every day and recognizing that the old man ain't going to be right there as ready as before. And quite honestly, in the last couple of years, he's really taken some steps up the ladder, as I know G2 has. That being said, from NDA standpoint, we want to work with people that we're termed a buy side or sell side advisory now. I guess that's to distance yourself from being a real estate broker or some other business broker per se, but it's a matter of semantics. The truth of it is you're helping find a buyer for, typically it'll be from the sell side that we work. Occasionally we've done a buy side agreement where somebody, hey, help us find something. We'll pay your fee. That way you don't have to wait for the owner to decide to list it for the whole world to look at. Hey, we'll go through the process and see if we make a deal. One factor in that is if we get an engagement with a seller and we have a buy-side agreement, the buy-side agreement is voided for that transaction because we don't want to have a conflict of interest working for buyer and seller at the same time. Right. But there's other things that we've done. We've helped people arrange financing. We do valuations of businesses that they're always kind of part and parcel to a transaction. And, we have a certain code of ethics, I guess we'll call it core values, that we don't want to ever break the rules of good, fair dealing. And
Nick, if I might interrupt, we're scrolling through on the screen here some of the different companies that you work with. Can you want to highlight any of these particular companies that you have your company NDA has a great working relationship with, just in case some people out here are interested in franchising?
Well, yeah, certainly. Any of them have their value and their worth. The ones, of course, that we've done the most business with started with Kentucky Fried Chicken and the Yum brands, the Taco Bells and Pizza Huts. But then we've got one person in our office that does non-Yum brands. That's how it started. Then all of us have gotten into Dairy Queens. I don't even know if they're listed on there, or independent companies that aren't. This is unfortunately our website probably needs some updating, but the RBI group, Burger King and Popeyes and Tim Hortons, they've become a client of ours, and a guy in our group called named John Pinar. He has developed a good relationship with Restaurant Brands International. The CC's Pizza, yeah, we've done some of those. It's post-COVID. I mean, it looked like all the buffet people were going to go out of business. You had that scare yourself, I guess. But some of them, maybe we've done one deal or two, and others we've done Domino's. We've done some of those, and Arby's, and Little Caesars involved. We did a deal.
So great list here. I think I'll mention this to the audience, as some people want to get in and they want to become a franchisee. They think they want to franchise what they're opening, and I don't think they take in consideration all the legalities and all of the things that go into a franchisor becoming a franchisee. You just don't become a franchisee because you create something. Any comments along that line to some of those folks?
Yes, we were involved with a couple of fledgling franchise companies, or they wanted to consider how to develop their brand beyond the one or two or a couple of units that they have that were doing very well. And some of that involves who was doing the business at the existing restaurants, and that they are just, all American top talent versus somebody that quit a corporate job to go do it. That's one factor. Capital is a big factor. I mean, you don't think about it as much, but if you don't have a good working capital base, you got to pay attorneys to set up full disclosure statements. You got to develop a brand identity. You have to advertise. You have to have staff to supervise the franchisees, and you have to have some way of monitoring the consistency of the product or service that you're franchising. And I would recommend, if anybody was considering that they prove it in more than one or two or three locations, and then they see that it's transportable to another state or to another city, and that by their own reputation of success, that's almost the necessary starting point. If you haven't proven you can make money, then why would you want to? As a franchisor, hey, if you don't care about the franchisee making money, it just gets your royalties. That's a big argument sometimes. But I would think in terms of a lot more money. We were involved with a brand called Bountiful Bread, and it is such a great concept that it was at a wrong time and a wrong place for us. David White, he was one of the best operators in the KFC world, had this concept, and we wanted to duplicate it, and we worked hard at it, and we didn't have the kind of capital and infrastructure and everything to get it going. And on top of that, we were in a location that nobody knew who we were, and it did okay, but it didn't have the safety net of being able to wait a year or two to start making money. And sometimes you can just luck into the best location, or and it goes no matter what you put in there. But
certainly location is a key piece to this, Nick. But as we conclude, I want to thank you, Nick, for being on our podcast and sharing your expertise on this franchising concept in particular, your story of humble beginnings to where you are today and passing the legacy on down to your son. I want to thank also the audience who have joined us and have put some questions up on the board, and hopefully you can reach out to Nick and his company, NDA, if in fact you have the needs and want to get involved in franchising, or if you have a franchise that you want to sell, you can reach out to Nick. So want to thank everyone for participating today in our Catch as Catch Can, Turning Obstacles to Opportunity podcast. So Nick, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be part of your program.
Thank you.
As always.
Thank you.
This has been Catch as Catch Can. The game isn't over. Your success story is just getting started. Head to tinsleyspeaks.com for exclusive content, resources, and opportunities. Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., a production of Live Stream Editors.